So I just read these wild numbers that 45% of Hispanic women do not have a savings account. 25%, only 25% of Hispanic women feel confident about their money and knowing what to do with it and knowing how to multiply it. And something along the lines of like 80-something% of millennials do not have a retirement plan or some sort of money waiting for them when they, quote unquote, stop working. And I know some of us think, well, I'm never going to stop working. I love what I do, but you ain't going to work forever. Mm-hmm. And so in addition to these wild numbers, you've heard me talk over and over and over again forever about how women in business often focus so much on the sales, on scaling, making more money, and serving our clients and providing for our families. But none of us like to think about how to make the money make itself. Many of us are not exploring other ways to make the money multiply that doesn't directly connect with our business, with our profession, with our expertise. And really what that translates to is you're leaving money on the table. Because if there is any way that the money can multiply outside of your zone of genius even, which I know already I can feel somebody being triggered and saying, well, I'm not going to go and make money in a way that I don't know how to make money. Well, that's the whole point is to learn new ways to make money. And so that's why I'm so excited for this episode. Jasmine Glover is a financial advisor, and she is here to talk about how to help us make money multiply in a way that is not scary, in a way that is fun, in a way that is exciting, because I get it. Sometimes there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of fear about doing unknown things, and especially if we've worked really, really hard to make our money, then you don't want to really go do something unknown with it and not come back with all of it or more of it, right? So thank you for being here and sharing your genius with me and with our listeners today.
Thank you for having me, Gigi. I appreciate being on the show.
For the record, those that came to Move, Breathe, Grow, you already know Jasmine. She was one of our speakers at MDG, which is our flagship event that we do every year for our legacy makers inside the Seizing Happy tribe. And you shared a lot of gems there, but I want to go deeper on this episode. However, before we start, I have to ask you the question I ask every guest on the show. How are you seizing happy today?
I think seizing happy, thank you for that question, but seizing happy for me individually means being present and being in the full moment, letting go of the anxiety, letting go of the stresses of yesterday, the anxiety for tomorrow, and just appreciating what's around me. I go to the gym faithfully every single morning. I'm up at 4:10.
You call it your sanctuary. I see your stories. I'm like, yes, there she is.
The gym is my sanctuary. I really feel like there's a spiritual connection with me going to the gym and just really being out of my thoughts. I have to be present. If I have a heavy weight and I'm squatting, I got to be present to make sure the squats don't fall on me. So that's why I call it my sanctuary, because it allows me to seize the moment, seize my thoughts, and then fully embrace what's around me. And for me, that makes me happy. It brings me calm. It brings me stillness. And I think stillness is very important to hear and be able to receive whatever. I'm very spiritual, so whatever the spirit or God is trying to instruct us to be or to go, it allows us to do that. So I hope that's clear.
I have to work so hard right now to stay focused on the topic of this episode, because we're about to, in my whole brain, I have 35 questions I want to ask you that have nothing to do with what we initially said we were going to talk about, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save those for later if we have time.
No worries.
So here's the thing. You and I have talked a lot, and I'm going to dive right in head first because I know we have the depth in you to answer this damn question. Aside from the obvious pay gap that we already know exists, what is the reason why Black and brown women are struggling so much to build our financial empires? What are we missing? I know you know, because you're building yours. We've talked about your discipline with money, how you are very diligent about how things need to get done. Now, the difference is you're certified in this. You've learned about this. The rest of us who don't have certifications in this, it can't be the certification we're missing. What is it?
I think it's that whole bias that you have to have a whole bunch of money to see a professional. And I think it starts with seeing a professional. You have to consult with someone to just really get a glimpse of a second pair of eyes to get a glimpse of your financial situation, right? I also think if we go deeper, I do think that Black and brown women, a lot of us have carried the torch by ourselves, right? And I say that because I have, for the longest before I got engaged, I was doing it by myself financially.
Yeah.
So when you're providing for your child, when you're providing for their welfare, their basic necessities, shelter, food, clothing, and then the extracurricular activities. My son does boxing, so that costs money. So we're always naturally as women nurturing and giving of ourselves to others. So, and that pours into our financial life. And so I think that sometimes if we just take a step back and say, hey, I'm going to put me first, and holistically looking at everything, it's not just mind, spirit, emotion, it's also finances, right? So that all affects everything else. I always say that. So I think that has been a part of the reason as well, in addition to.
I love that you brought that up, that it's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, and I see this a lot in my clients too, I feel like sometimes women want to compartmentalize the different parts of them. And so when they're a mom, they want to be a certain type of way with their children. When they're in business, they want to be a certain type of way. When they're selling or making decisions, hiring and firing. When they're with their partners, they want to be a certain type of way. And then I think that when it comes to finances, because realistically and historically, we've only really been playing with finances for a few years. I mean, wasn't it like in the 40s or 70s or something that women were even allowed to open their own bank accounts without a man co-signing?
Without a man co-signing. I think it was like in the 70s.
Yeah, it's
Don't
absurd.
quote me on that.
Yeah,
It's still new.
We're not here for the history lesson, but that shit was like 5 minutes ago.
Right.
Right? And so I can understand where nurturing our marriages, our homes, our children, and our tribe is something that we're so much more familiar with because we've been doing it so much longer. But we have a responsibility now that we are also doing the nurturing of the money and the finances because we wanted to get out there and have jobs. We wanted to get out there and have equal power by having enough money to say, well, I don't want to be in this situation anymore. I'm going to get myself out, which I love and support. But we have a responsibility to become better educated on what is happening with our finances, on how to make our money work. And so I completely agree with you that there is a historical way that has affected our ability to master finances. But even being aware of that, my next question for you is, why are we resisting? I feel like sometimes I'll bring up these conversations with my clients about money, about like, how much is your business making? How much is your business costing you? What is your freedom number, right? So like the number you need to feel completely comfortable with your overhead cost and then with your desires and then all the extra stuff, like a freedom number, and they just get anxiety even thinking about these things. So why is that? Where is that resistance rooted? Why do you think? You may not even have the answer to this. I know I don't. But like, why do you think?
I think from some of the experiences, because when I first started, I've been in the industry for 14 years. So when I first started, I would set up a booth in front. At the time, I was working with state employees, educators, right, firefighters, police officers. So you walk in there, hey, I'm a financial advisor. You put your table together to give more information, and they would just like get the food that I was sponsor, and then like, hey, and then like shyly walk away from it and not engage in a full conversation. I think it's number one, they think you have to pay large fees in the beginning of sitting with an advisor.
Yeah.
And then number two, I think that if they feel like they don't make a certain amount of money every single year or already have a certain amount of money in the bank floating around, maybe six figures, they feel like they're not worthy to even sit with an advisor. Now, I will say some financial advisors won't see you unless you have $2 million liquid sitting in the bank account, or you're making at least $250,000 a year. So maybe it's coming from that bias. But I just feel like sometimes they don't know the cost. And because they don't know, they shy away from it, the fear of the unknown type of thing. And just having that insecurity of feeling like they don't have enough.
And with numbers like this, I can tell you there are some listeners right now of this podcast that are like, absolutely, I'm ready. But I know also there are other listeners that are like, well, I don't have $2 million lying around. I'm not making 250,000 yet, right? Like I just broke my first six figures. What is the true number? If it's not, if we don't need to already be established and wealthy to reach out to a financial advisor, what would you say, like what the listeners here, what are your requirements for somebody to come to see you because they want to make their money multiply? How would that look?
Yeah, so if you're not already in that space, I would say don't wait. You should be sitting down. For me, for my personal services, I don't turn anyone away because I feel like you just never know. One of my best clients, she knows who she is, wasn't in the like super rich or tax bracket. She didn't make a lot of money. She didn't make a lot of money. But she would send so many people over that needed my help that I was able to put them in a better off situation. Now, granted, not everybody will be multimillionaires, but you can be what Tiffany Elise, she's the budgetista. I'm not sure if you heard of her before, but you can be financially whole. So for me, it's not, I won't turn you away if you say, hey, Jasmine, I don't have $10,000 sitting in an account, or I don't have $20,000 sitting in an account. I think everyone is worthy to have the conversation. I'm just not that advisor, right? So if you're not super rich, to answer your question, if you're not super rich and you're not swimming in money, I think reaching out to someone, having a conversation, maybe attending financial literacy workshops. A lot of advisors now are doing those things. So maybe they're prepping you, right? They're prepping you for that time to come when you have the assets, when you have that liquid net worth to be valuable enough or qualified enough to sit in front of that other advisor.
I'm so glad you brought up that term, financial literacy. I have issues with that term because I get it. I get what it means, but there's, being literate just means you know how to read and write.
Yeah.
Right? So financial literacy means what? That you know how to add 2 + 2? Like, or is it like there's literacy, like I know how to read and write, and then there's literacy like syntopical reading, which is like you pick a topic and you're reading 3 different books on that topic at the same time so that you can grab the thoughts and ideas from each author and compare and contrast. That's a whole nother level of literacy, right? So what would you say is the required level of financial literacy that the women listening to this podcast require for their next level? So the women listening to this podcast are women who've been in business for, let's say, 3 to 5 years. They're doing okay. They're like at that brink of breaking their next 6 figures. Maybe they're like they're like high to the first 6 figures or breaking second, third 6 figures. We have a few listeners that have gone past 7 figures already.
Okay.
But for that majority of the women, what would you say is their definition of financial literacy? What do they need to know?
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of like meeting your advisor halfway.
Yeah.
Being financially literate, right, is not like where I'm sitting here talking to a newborn and they are clearly just, they won't grasp anything. Financial literate would mean that you have your budget intact, you know your cash flow, you know your inflows, you have an emergency fund, you know what that emergency fund should look like. Textbook rule says it's anywhere from 3 to 6 months of those expenses, right? Even in business, you keep that separate. If you have a business, you don't mix and mingle the personal and the business accounts, right? So
you guys know better. You know better. Do not even get me started on mixing and mingling personal and business. Y'all know better.
Yeah, so I think being financial literate means, again, going back to the cash flow, the cash management part, risk management. You know that you need to have something in place to protect your assets, to protect your incomes, especially if you're the primary breadwinner, right? You have a sense that, okay, I need to be putting something in place. What tools should I use? That's where the advisor comes in at. So it's just kind of like, I'm a huge sports person. So if you are a basketball player, right, you can be great. You can be like MJ, like LeBron James. But they still need coaches, right? They know the game. They know what they need to do. But having that coach, having an accountability partner will help kind of move move you in the right direction more efficiently, and it will save you the curve, the time curve, the mistake curve, the losing money curve. So financial literacy for me means that, okay, you have a basic understanding of your budget. You have a basic understanding of risk management tools, a basic understanding that, hey, I know I want to retire. I know this is the goal, but then what does that plan look like? And that's where I come in at. And so we're meeting one another halfway.
So they need to be clear on how much they're making. They need to have some sort of like safety fund, whether it's for the business and or themselves. They need to be clear on knowing that they want to protect those assets, but if they don't have those protections in place, they can still come to you and you'll help them put those into place. And they need to understand that you need to have a plan to retire. You are not going to work forever. And the deal, I think, about retirement, and I want to dive into that in a minute, but when it comes to planning for retirement, that word in and of itself is such a trigger word, because you'll think about things like, well, you don't retire until you're 69 and a half or 70 or whatever it is. So you have those people. Then you have the people that are like, well, I want to retire at 30. And that's okay. I support that. But retiring in general means you're not going to actively be working, but you're still going to be breathing. So you still got to eat. You're still going to want your car. You're still going to have your big ass mortgage. You're still going to have all these things. So what is retirement? Does retirement mean not working? Does retirement mean not earning? What, for that concept of, because it's such a big word that could mean so many things to so many different people. Like, what is retirement? And then let's talk about how to plan for it.
Absolutely. And I love that question. So retirement it could be relative, but I'd say retirement for each specific individual means you're stepping away from your main source of income. And now that I've stepped away from my main source of income, these are my golden years. Every day is a Saturday and a Sunday. So I'm probably spending a little bit more money, right? Or at least the goal is to maintain the lifestyle that you were living when you were earning income. That's my goal for my clients. I want you to maintain your lifestyle, unless we say, okay, we've eliminated the big ass mortgage like you mentioned, or we've eliminated our debt. It may go down a little bit, but I mean, the cost of living goes up. Inflation goes up. Right. So, I mean, again, we want to maintain that lifestyle. So retirement is basically you stepping out of your main source of income and now into your golden years, where every day is your Saturday and Sunday.
I love that. I actually have a concept called a random Tuesday that I talk about with my clients all the time. And it is the thing that I used to do. That thing that I used to do to celebrate something, like that nice restaurant I used to go to when it was like an important day, or celebrating a big accomplishment, or like that place, like that vacation, or getting away for the weekends. Like, my definition of success is when I can, or not success, but my definition of having reached a next level of excellence in my life and in the things that I'm planning is being able to do those celebratory things on a random Tuesday. When you can make the celebratory the random Tuesday experience. It's your lifestyle now, and that's okay. Right. I love that you mention the concept of maintaining the lifestyle. And that's another important and big word, because if your lifestyle is also sustaining others and you're planning, so if your lifestyle is currently sustaining children that are young and you're on the, I want to retire at 45. Yeah. Right. I love that. We have to consider that when you retire, that plan, whatever it is that's going to be sustaining you financially, also has to sustain these kids, right? And then those of us that are also caretakers and have parents that are also going to require care at some point, right? How do we factor all of these things into the retirement conversation, or do they need to be factored? You know, what are we doing with that?
Right. And again, so retirement is so relative. It's just so specific. And it's funny because it doesn't matter where you are. Your retirement plan is going to look different from mine. The next person is going to look different from all of ours. So I think that most people retire once they're done with the caregiving, once they're done with the children. So we don't factor the children in so much unless there's a special needs case. In that sense, that's a whole different level of planning. You got attorneys involved, you got trusts involved, you got other financial products and tools involved. But what I will say is, because it's so specific and because it's such a tailored plan, That depends on where you are. Like, so if you are retiring, your kids will be grown. You only have one, right?
I have one for now.
One for now.
Yeah,
You have
one
more?
for now. I would hope so. I hope so.
Okay. So I don't know what your goal is, right? But say you want to retire when your child is 20 years old. You're no longer worrying about that expense that you have now every year for him, right? Him, is it him? Okay. You're not worrying about that anymore. So what you will be thinking about is, okay, what are my overheads? Okay, where do I want to live? How often do I want to travel? Do I want to travel, right? Are there some bigger purchases that you're looking to make? Do you want to buy a car every 5 or 7 years? What is, it goes back to your goals. What specifically are you looking to do? And then we plan around what does that number look like. So it's just so hard to give a generic answer because everybody's different.
Absolutely. And it's part of the reason why I asked that question, because it's why it's important to sit with somebody like you.
I know. Yeah.
Because I also feel like even now, and I think about stuff like this often, and even now when you said about the car, where it's like, oh, do you want to trade out your car or change your car? That's one thing I have not factored into my retirement, right? Not really. And so it's part of the reason why it's important to sit with somebody who's got the full view. Like, you've got the full angle. It's almost like, I feel like when you can sit with a financial advisor, you're driving, but they're kind of like, they're the ones that have the view of your blind spot.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that. I was literally going to say that.
Yeah. Like, you're still in charge. You're still going to decide where the money goes, how it goes, what you're going to do for it, what you ain't going to do for it. Because I also feel like sometimes I had a client who I was referring to a financial advisor because I was like, you're making a lot of money right now and you don't have anything in place to help you, number one, protect it.
Yep.
And number two, there are ways to make this money multiply where you can work less.
Absolutely.
And her immediate response was like, I'm not investing in the stock market. And I was like, whoa.
Everybody thinks that way.
I didn't even say that. Like, those words did not come out of my face. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that.
Yes.
You know, just at the point that we're recording this, there's just so much volatility in markets everywhere, and there's so many conversations about it's going up, it's going down, it's in the red, it's in the green, and people are buying and people are selling. And then I keep reading everywhere like what is that saying about be whatever when people are greedy and be greedy. Oh, be scared when people are greedy and be greedy when people are scared. Something like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot. So demystify the stock market for everybody.
Right.
And then let's talk about other ways that we make money.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm glad you asked that. So the stock market is a money-making machine, right? But the stock market is very volatile in nature. And so many things affect the stock market. There's political views. There's other things happening overseas. If a CEO says something crazy of a company, it affects the value of the shares, blah, 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 blah. I can go on and on and on. But when you're investing in the stock market, it's more of a long-term approach. You don't get up, unless you're a day trader. That's a different story. I don't day trade because I follow Warren Buffett. I follow the old school way. And I do feel like you are going to come out ahead further if you look at it from a long-term investing standpoint, right? So over time, if you look at the history, and I wish I had charts, but over time, the market is going to progress and get higher over time, although it's going to make some very significant dips. But if you have a 20-year time frame or a horizon before you're going to touch into the growth that you're making, you can sit back and go for the ride. You buckle up. It's going to happen. The downturns are going to happen. That's actually when you start to put more money into the market because you're taking advantage of the market being on sale. It's like, we're going to go shopping now because we see the prices of the shares is dropping, right? So I don't get specifically into the stocks because I'm more of a holistic planner than anything, but making money in the stock market is not the only way to retire. It's not the only way to make money. It's a great source. It's a great avenue, but there's other ways. There's real estate.
Please, can you list a few other ways to make some money? Because look, here's the thing. I'll tell you this. When I first began my entrepreneurship journey, I was fresh out of high school, I think, 17, 18 years old, opened my first business. That's a long time ago, many moons ago. Girl, I turned 40 this year.
No
it's
way.
a long ass
You look
time ago.
amazing.
Thank you. But I'm 40 as hell.
No way.
The thing is, when I first started, I remember being 5, 6, and taking dance classes. And then I remember turning 18, 19, I'm sorry, younger than that, 15, 16, and being asked, do you want to pursue this professionally? And my immediate answer was no, because if I sprain my ankle, I can't pay for my car.
Yeah.
At that point, 15, 16, my car was the most important thing in my whole life, right? And so fast forward, I'm in my 20s and I'm like, well, I'm not going to, I knew I wasn't going to pursue it professionally as a dancer. I instead opened the business, right? And so in my 20s, I was teaching. And then I was like, I'm not trying to teach all these damn kids. I loved teaching, but it's a lot. It took a toll on my body. It took a toll. I was always tired. I was still going to school full time, getting my degrees. And then it was like, I'm going to hire people.
Yeah.
But the moment that I stepped away from teaching, a lot of the students left. Because a lot of the students wanted to learn with GiGi. It is called GiGi's Dance Academy. So when you put Susie and Jesse to teach, it takes time for Susie and Jesse to earn the hearts of the children and for the kids to stay and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And then I realized I cannot have one source of income.
Yep.
It just can't happen.
Nope.
So thankfully, I was already pursuing my career in media. I've been in media all my life, literally since I was 5 years old, performing on TV. So I was already doing, graphic design for magazines. I was doing radio. I was doing television, stuff like that. So I had these different streams of income. And then I started thinking, well, I don't want to do the dance studio anymore. I want to focus just on my career.
Okay.
And then it was like, so what if this stays to making a little money, but then what if this stops making money? And then I realized, well, I never wanted to have one stream of income. I always knew you needed to have more. In my mind, in my 20s, I was like, 2, my media and my business.
Yeah.
And then in my 40s, I'm at a point where it's like, if I don't got 7 things making money at the same time, I'm just not okay. I'm not okay. And ideally, 6 of those 7 things, I don't got to do.
Yeah.
Like, I want my job to feel like my hobby. I don't want my job to feel like if one of my VIP clients decides that she doesn't want to work with me anymore or wants to try another coach or all of my one-on-one clients decide. I had a year. I kid you not.
Yeah.
I had one year that I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because straight up, I was working with, I think I had 4 or 5 VIP clients. And out of nowhere, one of them decided she was going on a sabbatical for a year. She's like, I am leaving everything and everyone behind. And she was just going to go to like a temple in India. I kid you not. So I'm like, okay, now this is when my business was built mostly on VIP, on one-to-one coaching.
Okay.
So that was my highest ticket. They got the highest, support, whatever. The other one shut down her business.
Ooh. She
sold it. From one day to the next, she was like, I'm doing all the things. I have all the fun. I love this. And then she woke up and she was like, God spoke to me in a dream and I'm selling it. She called her attorney and she started putting documents in order. And she was like, so I don't need coaching anymore because we were coaching strictly for the business. And so and it was like out of nowhere because her business was very profitable, but she was also very intuitively led. She ended up coming back.
No way.
Later because her intuitive push to sell was the right choice to do in that moment, but it was because she was meant to be doing something else. And then she came back to coaching to do that other thing.
Okay.
But in that moment, she's like, God spoke to me in a dream last night and I'm selling the business.
Wow.
That day, she's like, after your coaching call, I have a meeting with my attorney to draft everything. And I'm just telling you, I'm selling it. So I don't need coaching right now. I was like,
oh,
okay.
Wow. Okay.
Then the other one had a really personal, some really catastrophic stuff happened in her life and she had to step away from everything. And she was like, I'm not doing anything anymore. I'm stopping everything. I need to just take care of myself because this is a lot personally. So out of these 4 clients, 3 were gone.
Wow.
Practically. And this all happened in the span of like a week. And I was like,
what the hell?
What the hell am I going to do now?
Right.
Because these bills aren't going to stop coming.
Yeah.
I still want to go out and do the things I want to do, but
Right.
obviously next month is going to look very different than this month.
Absolutely, right.
So aside from restructuring businesses where, you can't have your main source of income be based on one-to-one, which is this is one of the things for those of you that are already in the Seizing Happy ecosystem and you know about simple business systems, you know about SBS. This experience is one of the experiences that led me to develop SBS, to develop where my main source of income in my business is from groups. So anyway, whether my one-to-ones want to stay or go, I'm gonna still make the same money I make. One-to-ones are like what I have a girlfriend that calls it shoe money. Is like she loves buying these like expensive shoes.
Really?
Where I'm just like, I don't even know. I love shoes. I love a nice pair of shoes. But I was like, you have shoes that still have tags on them that are worth thousands of dollars and you don't wear them. She's like, I'm so happy just looking at them. And I'm like, do you, boo? But when it comes to structuring incomes, when it comes to building those different streams, where even within your business, sometimes you need to have the different streams. For those that are in SBS, we talk about inner sales and outer sales. You keep the business flowing in different ways. How do you start in a non-overwhelming way to develop multiple streams of income?
Yeah.
So you talked about the stock market, you talked about real estate. What are some other options? And then we'll talk about what's the least overwhelming way?
Man, the ease of making money now is, it's so easy now to make money with AI, with technology, with social media. We're more connected than ever, even though sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but we're more connected than ever. The exposure's there. All you need is a proper marketing. My son, he has his own business where he is merchandising, selling different items. And I encourage him, hey, get a store going. You can go on, literally, I was sitting on a podcasting call not too long ago, and the guy was literally telling, and this is not my forte, but there are so many opportunities to make money through either podcasting, merchandising, affiliate marketing, and it doesn't take too much of your time because of the ease of AI. Right? So in addition to the stock market, in addition to the real estate, buying and flipping properties, using residual income from maybe rental income, right? There's affiliate marketing. There's building those streams of income through the ease of using and utilizing AI. People are scared of AI, I feel. But if you embrace it and you learn it, I mean, the possibilities are endless. I think that if a lot of your time is going towards your most highest profiting business, if that's a well-oiled machine, you can now use that time. You've buying yourself more time to now say, hey, what are some other projects from either my existing business, or what are some hobbies or some things that I like that will generate an income for me and help me make money through my sleep? Does that answer your question? Right?
It does answer my question. And I love that. And so, multiple ways of having the money multiply itself. Because listen, I've never seen it, and I'll knock on wood just in case for those that are superstitious out there.
Good for you.
I've never seen everything flop at the same time.
Absolutely.
Right? Like sometimes one market is doing well, or one area of monetization is doing well and another one not so much. I've never seen all areas of monetization die at the same time. Right? And so when your business isn't doing well, if you have a little money coming in another way, it helps, because then if that way is not doing well, then that third way is probably up. It's a balance, right? When some things go up, other things go down. That's just the way that it works. And so if you can have something in place for each of the main ways that you can monetize, or at the very least for something that you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
Because like you mentioned AI, right? I am obsessed with AI.
Me too.
I'm taking courses to learn to prompt. I don't want to learn to code. That's a little deeper than I care for. But I'm in a course right now learning to prompt. And I can tell you, I've built my own AI for Seizing Happy. We're developing an AI for the clients, some of my inner circle clients. And if you want to get in on this, since I've shared it publicly, just shoot me a DM, or I'll put the link on the show notes. But we have an AI that my clients can have access to that helps them to tap in deeper to their voice and to their marketing and to their messaging. It has already increase the sales of some of my clients by over 45% and decrease the amount of time they spend in their business by at least half. If I had half of my time back, that's amazing, right? Think of how much less you'd be doing in business and how much more you'd be doing for yourself.
Absolutely.
Whether that's for your health, your relationships, or launching another passion project, whatever it is. But now I want to counter my own question, because how do we also make sure that we are doing this without the overwhelm or the burnout? Because I also feel like trying to carry too many pots at once,
I was going to say that.
it doesn't work. So what's the right way to do it without the overwhelm, to add these multiple streams of income without the overwhelm?
I think it's all about structuring and managing your time properly. That's all it falls back to, honestly. I mean, because even for me, I'm generating clients from so many avenues. Like I'm doing a networking, I'm a part of a networking group that I run. I also assist my clients in their personal lives and making sure that I'm on top of servicing them. I have an insurance business that I'm insuring clients. It's so many different things that I'm wearing. Or hats that I'm wearing. So I properly structure my time, and everything is systemized. If you have a system, let me tell you, a system will change your life. So if your systems are well-oiled machines, it should give you more time to be able to implement other systems to make sure that these businesses are running properly. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. It's one of the things that we talk about so much inside our Seizing Happy ecosystem, that is to have our main program is called Simple Business System, right? And that's exactly the goal, is to make it simple, to make it repeatable, and to make it really profitable. Yep. And if you can approach, I feel like if you approach all of life with that mentality, so the Simple Business System, the purpose is to have a business that is repeatable and highly profitable. Mm-hmm. But simple is the key word. Yep. And if you apply that concept of simplicity first to every part of life, how do we keep our relationship more simple? Mm-hmm. How do we keep parenting more simple?
Yep.
How do we keep our parents and everything we got to do with them more simple? Mm-hmm. How do we keep date night more simple? Mm-hmm. How do we, if we could just ask that question to every single area of our life, I feel like we would be so much happier all around. Agreed. A system of simplicity is the key, because then it gives us that.
Yeah, that breather.
Yeah,
right.
It doesn't have to be hard. And I think that's another concept about, it all connects, about wealth building, which we think has to come from making a lot of money, which we think comes from working hard, which we by force, because we think it comes from working hard, we want to do more of it harder. Mm-hmm. So there's just so much to break down.
I know. I think that, again, when you're meeting with you have an advisor on your side, it takes the worry away, because where I come in at is giving you a strategy. So it's clarity and strategy. That's it. I systemize literally my clients. We have a quarterly review or a quarterly check-in. It's already systemized. I just know, hey, you got to call at this time. I hop on my Zoom, my client's on a Zoom. We do our quick review and we make sure we're on track. And then it's easy, right? Then we have our annual reviews, making sure that we check in, because you don't just start a plan and put it on autopilot and only check in 5 years.
Yeah.
Then how do you know you're doing it right? You got to check in, right? So I think that going back to that system, having that advisor on your side, making sure that you guys are collaborating, not me telling you what to do. Because again, at the end of the day, it is your goal, it is your vision, it is your plan. I'm just here to tell you, hey, move in this direction. Hey, don't do that, because it's going to cost you this amount of years or dollars if we're not doing it the most effective way. I lost my train of thought. What's my question?
No, yeah, it's about the simplicity and having everything systemized is what you were talking about. Having well-oiled machines.
That is it. And so going back to the clients, it doesn't matter where you fall. There's links. You click the link. Before you get to me, you have the link, you get your email, you get your confirmation email, we jump on the Zoom, that's it. It's no having a conversation every other day for 30 minutes that's taken away from time from doing something else that might either free me up for a more profitable thing, or spending time with my family or my loved ones. Systems are it. It's too much convenience. It's too many tools to be able to implement that and live our lives.
Yeah, I love that. And so to wrap up, somebody right now who is like, you know what, this all makes sense. I want to build my empire in a way that is going to help me to do less and make more. Mm-hmm. What are the first 3 steps that you would tell the women that are watching this or listening to this? What are the first 3 steps that they need to take in order to start really building what is known as like a financial empire?
Plan. Number one, you got to have that mindset already there. That's very important, because I can sit and talk to someone all day about finances, but if they're not ready here, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. We both wasting time. Then number two, consult with a financial planner or a financial advisor, someone that's very, that you feel a connection with. I think that's important, because you got to trust. This is confidential information. This is something that's very close and dear to you. So when it comes to that, you need to make sure you're picking someone that you feel that you can connect with, that you guys can see eye to eye on, that you can see this being a relationship that you guys can build together and get those goals done together. And then three is just all about implementing and checking in and just executing. You know, that's it. It's very simple.
I love it. So I think that something you really touched upon that is really, really valuable too is that implementation.
Yeah.
Getting started with the plan is not enough. It's the consistency and the implementing that is truly going to get you the level of success that you need to have. And then also something that I heard you say that I found is really, really important is this is really private, personal information.
Yeah.
And so in that, there is the shame that sometimes people feel around money.
Oh, yeah.
There is the guilt that people sometimes feel about money. You feel guilty if you make too much. You feel guilty if you don't make enough. There's, shame about like, I'm so much wealthier than other people and then I feel bad about it. Or shame that other people have made so much more money than I have and I'm behind. We just have all these muddled thoughts in our brain about money.
Yeah.
And if you're not talking them out with somebody who can help you realize the importance of making those muddled thoughts work in your favor, meaning making the thoughts about money that are not leading you to make more of it more comfortably and more joyfully.
Yeah.
If you're not working on that part, it can get really hard for you to go to a financial advisor and say, I want to make more.
Yeah.
I want it to multiply by itself and I want it to be easy.
Yeah.
And here are the only risks I'm willing to take.
Yeah.
I'm willing to risk this much or this much time. It's either you're risking money or you're risking time. Like if you're not willing to first uncover and to really work through all of our money BS that we have in our minds, it's just not going to be as successful. That's a really big part of it too, right?
Absolutely. Money is really a tool. It's not a measurement as to who is better and who is not.
Yeah.
It really isn't. And then some people don't even want to be like super rich. Some people want to just be comfortable and like, hey, I want to have my little 2 houses, my rental income coming in, my stock market investments, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's a tool and it's also a mirror, right? So it reflects wherever you are financially, reflects your relationship with and how you see money, right? Me growing up, I saw money. Are we wrapping up now? Me growing up, we didn't understand it. So when you don't understand and your mind is not there yet, it's not gonna be successful. You're not gonna pass on generational wealth. You're not gonna ever be comfortable. You're always gonna live paycheck to paycheck because you just abuse the money because you don't care, you don't value it, right? So I think again that goes back to me saying mindset. Once you have that mindset and you wonder, okay, why am I always like living paycheck to why don't I have this amount of money in my reserves? How come every time I have an accident, it sets me back 3 months? How come I have a bunch of money or I make a bunch of money and I don't really have anything to show for it? What's my relationship like? What does that mirror reflect back to me as far as this money?
Oof, I can't think of a better way to wrap up than with that because that is exactly what money is. It's just a mirror, right? And if you change a little bit about yourself, that mirror looks different.
Yes.
If you change a little bit about your hair, what you're wearing, whether you want to wear high-waisted or low-waisted, metaphorical examples of if you change what you are, how you approach money, the mirror, in other words, the reality of the finances that are facing you will also change. Jasmine, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Chats with GiGi podcast.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me,
I
GiGi.
love to continue learning from you. And listen, I want to hear what was your greatest takeaway from this episode. You know that I do this podcast for you, for us to continue to grow, to continue to expand, to continue to learn. And so that requires that you talk to me. So find me on Instagram at Seizing Happy or at Chats with Gigi Podcast. Tell me what has been your favorite takeaway from this episode. And you can find all of Jasmine's contact information in the show notes. Get on her calendar, have a conversation with her, start to build that beautiful wealth map that's going to get you to your ultimate financial destination, whatever that is for you.
Awesome.